Welcome to the Renegade River Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and my guest today is Holly Hughes, who is a candidate for state representative in the 91st District, and you were state representative in that district before, correct?
Yes, I was.
What years did you serve, Holly?
2011 and 2012. I was elected in 10. So.
Very, very nice. What committees were you on?
I was on Health and Human Services, or Health Policy, I should say, Education. I was on Local Government Control and also on Tourism. We dealt with...
If you win, are those the committees you would hope to be back on?
What I would like to be on is actually I would like to be chair of Veterans Affairs.
Okay.
I worked hard on that issue. I continue to work hard on that issue. My whole focus of my job and campaign is jobs.
Okay.
And we found out that our veterans have high unemployment in Michigan, and we're actually missing out on $1.4 billion annually on VA benefits. Which made us 53 out of the 50 states, and I realize we have 50 states, but that meant territories were ahead of us as well. I think we're 49th now. But we started a Veterans Job Fair on the LSD ship downtown Muskegon, right by the MART dock there. In 2011 was our first one. And then we did it again last year. We had 1,000 people go through 81 businesses. It was for veterans, but also for regular non-veterans as well. And we're going to do that again. We're in the middle of the planning for that. We met last week on it. We're going to do it May 16th. It's a Friday from 10 to 2. And we hope to have, this time we're just going to have businesses that actually have jobs. That's what we had before, but we had also had service organizations. And so this time it's just going to be pure jobs, and nobody can be a part of the job fair unless they have actual jobs to be given out. And they're jobs from anywhere from engineer all the way down to Wendy's and everything else in between.
Right. Tell me, when I didn't know Michigan rated so low as it was with the veterans, what are we doing wrong as a state? As it relates to the veterans to cause ourselves to be in the bottom of the pile?
Well,
like that?
We're not being aggressive enough. I actually had a commercial driver's license bill that was signed into law by the governor December of 2012. It was a bill where you could be active duty service person. You have your commercial driver's license this week, and next week you're discharged and you're now a veteran. That license does not carry over. So my law made it so. It didn't make sense that you would lose your means of supporting your family that you were able to do just last week.
Right, it's a very counterproductive rationale.
Exactly, and so states like Wisconsin and Indiana, Illinois particularly, they have hundreds of jobs that they look out for the veteran, and we had only 24 on our list. So actually I'm still working with my former colleagues with bills that I was going to go after myself.
Right.
And they've actually taken up. The House Majority Floor Leader, Jim Stamas, and I have had multiple meetings. He's taken up some of my bills. Actually, Senator Molinar took up a bill that covered 26 all in one swoop.
Right.
Things that the veteran can take care of that they've already got experience in, and they can go to work a whole lot sooner, so you don't have that lag. And then there's things like Representative Rendon has a bill that the veteran can, when they go to college, because they have that small window, it's just like, you know, your kids, you have that small window, they're coming back, they're trying to incorporate their family, get a job, improve on their education so that they can earn more money for their family. But they're not getting the credit for the experience they have. Now, some universities will tell you that they're doing that, but they're not. And so this would force the universities and community colleges to take that into consideration. So that's Rendon's bill. And then Representative Goyke has a bill that you actually have a check off on the college application that identifies you as a vet, so that you could know what you get credit for or not. And the problem is they're trying to charge twice.
Right.
And, you know, the veterans already paid once or gotten that experience. They should be able to get into the workforce a whole lot faster, which helps our economy here in Michigan.
Do you think their agenda is the double charge? Is it just about money, I guess, is what I'm asking?
They're looking to support their schools. They're saying we can't afford some of this legislation, but
these are the schools that, just to make sure I'm getting it in my head right, these are the folks that our Constitution says we shall give them money, but we shall not have any voice in what they're doing.
Oh yeah, they'll take our check.
Yeah, they're really good at that.
Yes.
800% increase in tuition since 1980 coming forward. So when they say they don't have any money, and I look at a grossly top-heavy administration across the board in our universities in Michigan, it falls on deaf ears with me. They need to, in my business, I mean, I just couldn't say, give me more. I have to get smart with what I'm doing.
Right. Well, you know, some schools actually get, like, I circulated to the caucus one day in the news. It had a donor who actually gave way more than what we contributed for the whole year for a university in one day. So some universities can afford it more, some cannot. But if they can't make it up by getting the money from us, they want to try to charge the students. So we set up a system where if you kept your tuition from going up more than a certain percentage, then you would get some money for your university or college. And so it works both ways, you know, and so you know, some of the things that we'd like to do is have in-state tuition for our veterans. That was my constitutional amendment. Let the people decide whether or not they want to do that for our vets. But right now, the universities, because constitutionally we cannot tell them what to do with their money or what to charge any of the students that come their way, that we would have to have the vote of the people in order to make that happen.
Nope, I think that's
I'm not asking for free education for our vets, right. Just in-state tuition. They had an agreement with the governor. If they had signed up for the military while they were in Michigan as a Michigan resident, they could come back at any time, because quite frankly, they're out protecting you and I out in the world, and they can't be sitting in Michigan. Nope. Making sure that they have that residency in place. It just makes sense.
You take a person like me, where I exercise my right to free speech every week on here, and I understand it's those folks that made it so that I can sit here and spout the politics that I believe in, and so I'm very grateful. I got to tell you though, Holly, I'm a little surprised that the Veterans Administration doesn't take a more proactive stance in helping our vets get back to a normal life.
Well, I tell you, there was a couple, there's one particular sad story that was turned into a happy story, but I have been working with, like I said, our colleagues still, because there is not a paid lobbyist for veterans.
Right.
And I never saw one come into my office. So I'm doing this for free. Right. You get all these new legislators, and they're not up on all the different things that are happening with our vets, and I think our vets get left behind. That's a problem. So we need to concentrate on veterans and our jobs, because it's a difference in our economy.
Right. It seems, though, that it's almost like the age-old debate that goes on. There doesn't seem to be a lot of in-place mechanisms to help these folks return to normal civilian life. The fight and the focus always seems to be on the entitlements that they should or shouldn't get, depending on whose side of the argument you're on. Right. But not any focus on saying these folks, men and women, both largely, they want to support themselves and support their families and be a part right. of the community. That seems to be a complete void.
One example was, I had a soldier come to me. He wasn't getting his VA benefits. He sent his stuff into Battle Creek 4 times. They still haven't received it. He was working, driving, right, and supporting his family, still active duty, and came back from Afghanistan with about 8 other guys, because the plane that left Afghanistan was full, and so he had to wait. So he didn't go through normal processing and end up in the veteran situation when actually he was active duty. Right. Long story short, he needed surgery on his neck, because one good bump would render him paralyzed,
Right.
and then he wouldn't be able to help his family support them. We would be supporting him.
Sure.
And so it took 8.5 months getting on conference calls with Senator Meatgoff and Congressman Huizinga and so forth. We finally got the surgery that he needed. He went down to Fort Knox, and I'm happy to report that he got his surgery. He's actually advanced in his position, and he's supporting his family. But it should not take me and a bunch of legislators to work on one case.
No.
We need to do a better job for that.
At Renegade River, I've got a gunsmith that I do a little bit of business with, and he's an Iraqi vet. He got pretty significantly injured by a roadside bomb. He was a gunner standing up in a Humvee. They went over a bomb. He suffered a fair amount of injuries. He's on disability now. What he articulates, what he indicates, is that there's a good portion of the VA that don't like veterans, literally. I just find that concept just so disgusting, to be honest with you.
Well, I did find somebody to work with, and Representative Vanderveen, who you
Sure.
talked about earlier, she had the similar experience as I am. If they're in the military, they cannot tell you what they need.
Right.
Technically, for bills to help the state help them. And so she had the same experience that I did. The guy that was helping me they were saying, you're going to lose your job if you keep talking to her. And with Barb a few years ago, and he didn't.
Right.
But when you talk about what happened with Barb a few years ago, Representative Vanderveen, the person that was helping her, actually lost their job.
Yeah.
So it has to come from command,
Right.
and not from somebody in the middle who's actually dealing with day-to-day things in the workforce for our veterans.
Right. Now, Barb Vanderveen would have approached this she's a registered nurse, as I recall.
Right.
So she'd have been looking at this from that vantage, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's pretty tenacious.
She is pretty tenacious, and so to her credit, she went ahead with her bill and it passed, and things are getting better. The governor's been very open to it. In fact, you probably saw the ad in the Super Bowl where he put veterans in his Super Bowl ad, because there's been a lot of legislation going through to try to make a difference for him.
Right.
But
I think a lot of people, myself included up until the last few months, that when I think of the veterans with issues, I think I have a tendency of focusing on the federal government, Veterans Administration, Veterans Affairs, and all of that, not thinking of it as a state issue, and clearly it very much is.
Right. But we have to focus in on jobs. I mean, that's what we do at our company. I'm fourth generation Muskegon County.
Right.
We have 2 daughters, and my husband Rick, and we have Master Tag.
Okay, that's a family business.
That's a family business. We have over 160 employees, and when we did our expansion, we did it in Muskegon County, in Montague.
Right.
I know there's some ads out there that say differently, but there's a nice Muskegon Chronicle report on when our company expanded about 5 years ago. So we believe in Muskegon and Western Michigan, and if it weren't for our employees, we wouldn't be doing so well. So
what does Master Tag do?
We make horticultural labels. In the
Okay.
springtime, you buy your petunias or your geraniums. There's a picture on the front. You flip it over. It tells you how to take care of them. Hopefully it says Master Tag Montague, Michigan, in the
Right.
little tip. It's one of 2 companies in Michigan, actually, two companies in the whole United States. They're both in Michigan that manufacture those tags.
When did Master Tag start? When did it begin?
Actually started in the 40s. It's a cute story. If it weren't for Harry Weese's from Weese Brothers Farm, you probably heard of that in Montague, said to Rick's grandfather, who had the hardware store in downtown Montague, that you ought to make these labels. At the time, he was making fishing bobbers, those old red and white
Sure.
fishing bobbers with the hook on it. He invented the hook on the top.
Very cool.
Didn't patent it, so he didn't make a lot of money on it. But he says, I don't think that's going to be a business. So he went to Chicago and he sold 2 million blank tags. I said, oh, there might be something to this. So when I met Rick, we had 7 employees and half were family, and then it turned into what we are today, 7 or 8 expansions later with over 160 employees. So
yeah, and it seems like so often, especially production and printing and specifically those types of businesses seem to be going other places or just are fading into history.
Right. And, when the Michigan business tax was here,
Sure.
it made sense for us to possibly move or sell our company. And we got an offer to sell out, but you look at that parking lot out there, and this is home. I'm fourth generation.
Sure.
I don't think we're going anywhere. My kids are the fifth generation. It's a great place to raise a family, and you can't beat Lake Michigan. But we care about our people, and so we got rid of I was happy to vote against the Michigan business tax, which Democrats and Republicans both said that was probably the worst tax ever invented, and brought it down to a better 6%.
Seems
tax.
like the build up to that, there was a small core of people that really thought it was going to be great, but there was equally a core that kept saying, no, don't do it. And they got to be the heroes later because history bears out that it was a train wreck.
It was a train wreck. And one example that I always use is Cisco tried to put their plant here in Michigan.
Right.
And they were going to hire 500 people, and it was a very environmentally sound business. They were almost there. They were a year into the process. But if it would have gone to Indiana, Indiana called.
Right.
Because it was like 15 miles or so outside of the border of Michigan.
Sure.
And they processed their permits within 48 hours.
Right.
So we needed to be better, more business friendly, less business tax as well as Indiana. And so that's where we made a difference with Snyder, and that's why you're seeing business come back. And actually we're number 3 right now in jobs, going ahead of everybody else in the state of Michigan here in Muskegon. So it's pretty cool.
Very, very cool. One of the things I have to tell you, I had Senator Meekoff on a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that he pointed out is that the last 20 automotive plants were built somewhere else. And you think, wow, I mean, this
Mississippi.
Muskegon, well, Mississippi, all kinds of places other than Michigan.
Right.
When I look at Michigan, specifically even Muskegon, we built engines. We did a lot of automotive production in the history of the city. And so not to have the state or the city considered for 20 plants in a row, that's gigantically negative. And it's a well, let me
But
pause.
our manufacturing jobs are going out.
It is coming back.
Right.
I was going to say we've only got a couple seconds left of this segment, but how do you, good or bad, how are you liking what Governor Snyder is doing?
I think he's making a huge difference for Michigan. We're finally having a surplus budget. When I went into Lansing, we were looking at $1.5 billion, somewhere in there.
Sure.
A deficit.
Right.
And we've gotten our budgets finished on time. There's the state is coming back. We're projected for almost $1 billion more over the next 3 years. It's making a huge difference in what we can do for our families.
No question. And one of the things that's a telltale of that is we're not, for lack of better terms, we're not bleeding people somewhere else like we were. There was a while there, year after year, where there was just everyone in Michigan was going somewhere else, including a number of my immediate family members, sister and so forth, looking for better prospects. And of course, those numbers are starting to turn back.
Yeah,
so
we definitely want to keep our kids and our grandchildren here.
Oh yeah, well we talk about education. In fact, in the next segment, I want to talk about education. Sure. But it's very frustrating that we work so hard to get an educated generation, and then they have to go somewhere else to secure a position. That's a problem. But listen, we're going to go to break, and we'll be right back.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake. Or go to the website, renegaderiver.com.
Are you one of the many Americans who undergo CPAP or BiPAP therapy? Replacing your supplies every 3 to 6 months is critical, as bacteria will build up and worn-out straps cause leaks. Call Allied Medical Supply Network and speak to an expert agent who will set up a schedule for your supplies to be delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today and rest easy.
Call 800-284-2512. That's 800-284-2512.
Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.
This is a national health alert from Worldwide Medical. Are you on Medicare? And do you suffer from back or knee pain? Have you tried injections, pain pills, or even had or considered surgery? If these examples apply to you or a loved one in pain, stop. There is a better way. You could qualify to receive a pain-relieving back or knee brace at little or no cost to you. You'll receive free information, free delivery, and all the insurance paperwork is handled for free. Best of all, there is little to no cost to you for the braces. Call 1-800-282-6789 to get all the details. It takes just a couple of minutes. These amazing braces have helped thousands of people in severe pain, and you may qualify to have yours delivered directly to your door at little or no cost to you. Call 1-800-282-6789 right now. This may be the most important call you make all year. That's 800-282-6789. Call now.
Welcome back to the Renegade River Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and we're in today with Holly Hughes, who is a candidate for state representative in the 91st District. Holly, let's talk about education a little bit. You were on the education committee before, right?
I was on the education committee. I'm also a former school board member. So
okay, so you've got a little bit of experience in this area.
Yes, and I have some legislation that actually this week we're going to have a bill. Honorary bill signing. It's already been signed into law, but it was a promise zone bill that I started in the House, and basically it was Senator Van Werkum's bill a long time ago, but Muskegon's not been able to implement their promise zone because we needed some cleanup legislation to make it happen. And so I proposed that legislation. We got it through the House like 105-4. And then it got stopped in the Senate. And so then Senator Hansen finished off the bill. And so we'll be down there and get our photograph taken with the governor for all the work that we did on that bill. Actually, what Promise Zone is after the Pell and TIP grant were the last resort to fill the difference for some of our poorer students, to try to make a difference. We have 18% in Muskegon that are college graduates, and what we wanted to do is to be able to start. The only of the 10 Promise Zone sites in the state, Lake County is the only one that's fully funded at $150,000, but they only have 17 students. We would have 850 students. And it would cost us about $20 million. And what you have to do is privately fundraise for 2 years before you got half of the set added into that fundraising in order to send kids to college. The problem is we couldn't afford to do it right away, and you want to have some kind of success, or private donors are not going to want to put their money into that fund.
Right.
So, and we also wanted to be able to do community college, not just four-year, and vocational education, because not everybody is going to go to college. You know, we need a lot of different things in Michigan, including welders, and as Governor says over and over again, and there are jobs to be had where we can't fill right now, and so why not educate the kids that we have here to try to make a difference. So I'm really proud that legislation went through and was signed by the governor.
I was happy about it, but I have to tell you, you're probably, you may or may not be aware, I tend to be one of those guys that are pretty critical of the educational process in general. In fact, Jeff Hansen was on the show a few month or so ago, and one of the things that him and I debated lately about was the Vocational or Career Line Tech Center. When I look at it, to me, it's a great, promising opportunity. But we're like whiffing the ball. We're missing it entirely, in my view. And it's kind of funny because at the time I had described for him, I said I think that the Career Line Tech Center is an opportunity that's currently being used as a place for academia to send kids that are not academiacs. There may be the troubled kids, alternative schools, some kids that have some mental challenges. All of these folks, it appears to me, and I'm a layman, but it appears to me like they're using Career Line Tech Center to some degree as a dumping ground. And Jeff Hansen, of course, he said I was thinking old school, and we talked about, in fact, he used the example of welding with his own son and life experience. And the irony to that is a couple days later, in my shop at Renegade River, a husband and wife showed up, and the lady, the woman, the wife, mother, teacher, is an instructor of welding at a Career Line Tech Center. And I said, so tell me, what do you think? How's it going? What's the upsides? What's the downsides? She says, well, it feels like we're a dumping ground. And because she'd had no clue that I do this show. We're in different universes. I'm known to be mildly conservative, and she's very, very liberal. But she's a nice lady. Yeah. But she articulated everything that I'd said to Jeff, and it causes me to say, is this something that, first off, do you think I'm wrong like Jeff did? Well, he was very respectful. He just said you're wrong.
There's two things going here, Mike. One is you're talking about a high school program.
I am.
And in that case, I would say talk to Gary Olson of Northern Machine. And the 20 or so, I don't know if it's 15 or 20, actually business people who are working on that school. They meet on a regular basis to try to get kids educated so when they come to their businesses, they're actually able to do a job.
Very nice.
And so you need to talk to Gary Olson.
I will reach out to Gary.
You probably should invite him in here and just talk about Voc Ed and take a look at the school. But the second thing is for the Promise Zone bill is for higher education.
No.
And so it's beyond the tech center in high school. This is for getting jobs specifically.
I recognize that, but the reason I kind of dove back to that a little bit.
It does remind you of it.
It does, because you can't get from one spot to the other. And so when I look at school, when I look at K through 12, and then specifically high school, this is the foundation for what you're working on, the higher education side. And you've got the math is the math. You've got 90+% college preparatory curriculum for the 25% that are likely to graduate from higher education. I find those things alarming.
Yeah. I need to correct myself. It's not Gary Olson, it's Steve Olson.
Okay.
Gary Olson does live in Muskegon and actually has a shop downtown right now. But it's Steve Olson of Northern Machine. So.
Well, hi, Gary, and Steve will reach out to you.
Steve, you want to talk to Steve about that one.
Okay, I will do that. But when I look at education truly, and again, I'm a layman. I've got 4 daughters, raised them, put them through the Grand Haven High School system. Like anything, there's areas that I could critique of it and areas that I found astounding.
Yeah.
One of the areas I'll compliment the Grand Haven system on, it's a political one. They have a government teacher. His name is Mr. Sweats. Him and I are polar opposites politically. And he invited me into his class to talk about party politics, knowing that him and I don't agree on even what areas and sun and all of that. I mean, we're extremely opposite. But that he reached out to show his students what party politics was on the other side, I thought that was great. I wish there was more of that. But
when you do invite Steve, I'd invite Dave Sipka of the MAISID, the superintendent from the ISD. He knows education backwards and forwards.
What's his name, Holly?
Dave Sipka, S-P-I-K-A. Dave Sipka.
Got it.
Yeah.
If you could if you could do anything that you wanted, what would be the first thing you'd do to help education along?
Oh, well, there's a number of things, from the veterans bills that we discussed earlier, the Promise Zone bill that we're working on now, early education. Actually, I think it's wonderful that the governor is going to put $65 million in early education, because if you can't read, you can't get an education, and it all happens in that critical time.
Right.
By the time you're in 3rd grade, and so you really do need preschool and kindergarten. It's a little different than when we were kids. In particularly in neighborhoods or in for everybody, but not everybody has the kind of family life that you and I had, or
right.
Can afford to do for their kids what we've done for our kids. So I think that preschool thing is very important. The Ready for School program in Holland is phenomenal. Some of the things that they're doing down there are awesome. I'm
guessing you probably read or at least followed a little bit of Amanda Price's push for the 3rd grade reading issue.
Yes. In fact, Governor Kasich in Ohio passed this legislation.
Okay.
And so I know her legislation's up as well.
Are you in favor of that, or?
You can't just say whether you're in favor of that. Yeah, I'm in favor of having our kids ready for school by 3rd grade,
right.
But you have to look at the budget part of that, retaining 3rd graders. It really goes back to preschool, and the governor recognizes that. That's why he's putting in the $65 million for preschool, to make sure that they start reading, that they know their letters by the time that they're in kindergarten. My daughter and probably your daughters knew their alphabet before they got to kindergarten, but that's not always happening. And so it is a drain on our whole system, and then you end up with things like the Detroit school system and the problems that they're having there.
I wonder, though, when I look at Amanda Price's that particular piece, Representative Amanda Price, just so listeners I know who we're talking about, she advanced a bill that, as I understand it, said that if a child can't read to a certain efficiency level at the end of 3rd grade, then that child would be held back. That's my interpretation of it.
Right, but there were some amendments on that to fix it, because it could be a huge financial burden on the state I'm trying to remember the details of that bill right now off the top of my head. It's not coming to me, but you can't just, it's not just a blanket, you got to be ready by 3rd grade. You have to back it up.
First off, I absolutely agree with what you're saying, but it seems to me that the more government has attempted to make the decisions that I, for one, believe should be made between a parent and a teacher, then rather than trying to foster greater parental involvement, we seem to be pushing the parents further out of the equation. And the absence of parents, in most cases, parents, that's making the problem worse, not better. So that's how I looked at it. I understand the intent was good. I know that, and I know Amanda, I think that her intent was good.
She's a great legislator.
I think she's a very nice person. But I'm paused to say I really have a tendency of pushing back on legislation that takes the role of parenting, and that's what I saw that as, rather than finding any kind of mechanism that draws them back in. Even raising my own daughters, I found that there was a pushback. So on one hand, when I'm critiquing the schools or education in general, I'll have some pushback. Say, well, half of it's parents. Okay, but when I was a very, very involved father, and the teachers were there, do you have any more daughters? When do we get rid of you? And certainly I can understand that, but you can't have it both ways. So that's kind of my take on Amanda's bill, and then in general, what I see as a problem is an absence of parenting.
Well, there is that, absolutely.
But with each generation, if I saw an SAT score I have to share with you, and it measured the people's scoring results that when those folks that were born in 1952, so they scored X on the SAT, people born in 53, all the way through to the people born in 1992. So it was a 40-year. And it was straight down. Every single year was straight down. There was no plateaus. There was no peaks and valleys. It went straight down for 40 solid years. I find that, Holly, absolutely alarming.
It is, and our kids today have so many more distractions than we do.
Absolutely.
We went out and played, and and so forth. And,
Yep.
and Mom said you can't go out till your homework's done, and those kinds of things.
Yeah, when I got my work done, I could go play, and when the lights come on, I had to be inside. And I played catch with my buddy for summer after summer. It wasn't, so it's a very, very different environment. But the things that really matter, they haven't changed. We can set them aside and ignore them or trade them, but they're still there.
You still have to be able to read and write.
These things, they haven't gone anywhere.
Whether you're writing on the computer or
but then I hear that we don't need to cursive anymore. We don't need to.
Well, I heard that too. I just think that's not right.
Well, I as a writer,
you do still have to write notes.
Yeah, I truly love to write.
Yeah.
What brings me to the show was the novel I wrote, the things I'm working on now that I write. Absolutely love to write, and to me it's almost like theft from a generation to allow it to back away even a half a step from those things that are core. Nothing else you can do. You can't do anything else without it.
Yeah. Well, I can write in cursive a lot faster than I can print.
Absolutely, but I think it trains your mind to think a certain way.
It does.
And I don't know that we're making a good, wise move to not allow ourselves to train the next generation.
I agree.
In that matter.
Yeah.
You mentioned health. What is how do you come at the topic of health?
Health policy?
Yeah,
was on that committee?
Yeah, well, I use Barb Vanderveen as an example.
Okay.
She was on I believe the same committee when she served, but she was a nurse, so I understand why she's there, and I'm trying to find out what draws you to want to serve on that committee.
The speaker asked me to serve on that committee.
Well, that has a big impact.
Yeah. And by the way, he's also appointed me to be on the Promise Zone Board for Muskegon. So when you're in the legislature, you're not necessarily an expert on everything. And a lot of people are going to be on committees where they know nothing about it.
Right.
But that's okay, because you get all the stakeholders in the room and you have testimony. And if you're thinking normal citizen, you can contribute and make decisions on what's presented before you.
Right.
And so that's probably why he put me on that committee. I've worked closely with the speaker on many issues, and he respects, at least I felt like he respected my abilities, and so I was put on that committee.
Did you like it?
Yeah, and the other part is we all deal with healthcare, whether it's on a personal level, but also on a business level. We've had to deal with that at our company.
Plus, you got a child.
Yes.
So it becomes very, very important. Yeah. Did you say two?
We have two girls.
Okay, very nice. So, yeah, that's.
They're young adults now. I really shouldn't be calling them girls.
Yeah, my oldest grandchild, she's 12, texts me. She's taller than most of my daughters now, and I have decided that grandbabies. I've got 9. Grandbabies are way better than daughters. So
I don't know that yet.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's
looking
Holly,
forward to it. Someday we'll be blessed with that.
It truly has been a blessing to have the grandbabies, and now when you see a Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter coming up, where they're crawling all over the place. Not anymore. They're running all over the place. But I don't know what caused me to think of them, but they are absolutely. I tell you what it is. When we're talking about daughters, I'm picturing over the weekend I saw postings from one of my granddaughters that went to the father-daughter dance with her father, and a few days last week I had one of my other granddaughters with her. And anyhow, those are the things that make all of the rest of this have meaning.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yep.
It's about family.
Yeah, it really is. There's no other reason to do all of this if not for making everybody's family more secure and with more rewarding lives. But wow, is the devil in the detail as we try to move forward.
Right.
We're going to go to a break in a second. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about your district and the path ahead for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Folks, we'll be right back.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Attention hip replacement patients. Several metal-on-metal hip implants have been recalled, and a jury recently awarded $8.3 million to one hip replacement victim.
Metal-on-metal hip implants can cause excruciating pain and may require expensive surgery to replace. If you had a metal-on-metal hip replacement and it's been removed or it needs to be removed, call the Goldwater Law Firm right now.
I'm attorney Bob Goldwater. Metal-on-metal hip replacements can be dangerous. If you have a metal-on-metal hip implant, even if it hasn't failed yet, call us right now. You may be entitled to substantial compensation.
The manufacturer of your defective hip implant should have to pay for your medical expenses and your pain and suffering.
Your time to act is quickly running out, so call us right now.
If you have a metal-on-metal hip replacement and it's been removed or is causing you problems,
call 1-800-540-9516. That's 1-800-540-9516.
Hi, this is Tommy D with Bad Boys Bail Bonds. Because bad things happen to good people, we'll be there to help you get out. Call the number on the screen, and remember, if we can't get you out, you ain't getting out.
Hey, you want to be a bounty hunter and work on the TV show? Well, call the number on the screen. Gotcha.
Bad boys got you. Bad boys got you. They gon' find you. They gon' find you.
Welcome back to the Renegade River Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and we are in today with Holly Hughes. Holly, let's talk about your district a little bit. I'm looking at this map, and it's
it changed a little bit.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit, and it's wow, it's got to be one of the more moderate districts. It looks like it's one that can, we always talk when we're, us ideologues, if you will, on Facebook and in the rest of the world, we're talking about, that's a hard conservative district, or that's very liberal. This is one of the ones that can go back and forth.
It's a swing seat, and it's very expensive because you have to be on television or you lose.
Right.
And Muskegon is a unique place.
Okay.
As I like to say, my mother's a Democrat, my dad's a Republican.
Okay.
I'm used to living on the edge.
Is that true, literally?
Yeah, it is
very
literally
funny.
true.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's more about let's do what's best for our hometown.
Okay.
And being fourth generation, I care about Muskegon. We're not going anywhere. And my grandparents came over from the Netherlands in the 1800s into Sullivan Township. Nearby, and we never left. So we care about what happens here in our hometown. So making a difference.
I didn't know that about the Democrat-Republican family.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. Well, that really actually fits this district.
Yeah, it totally does. My family fits this district.
Yeah, perfect, like in a glove.
Right.
When I look down the list of the townships, though, Fruitport and Dalton and Cedar Creek, some of these you've got some very, very country settings and some. I think right here where we're sitting right now is part of the district, isn't it? Or is
Norton Shores.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's pretty diverse groups of
right on the edge of the heights.
Of townships that make up that district.
And I've been actually. I grew up. Started out at Mona Shores.
Okay.
Kindergarten, first and second grade. Went to Churchill School. Kindergarten was actually in City Hall.
No kidding.
Whereas Norton Shores now, the school became City Hall.
That's probably what drew you to politics.
Who knows?
There you go.
I would never thought that when I was in college. I would have told you were crazy. You learn how you can make a difference for your hometown. But ended up at Roosevelt School in third grade and Glendale, and then Fruitport from 5th grade on. So been in, and now live in Montague. So I've been in just about every part of the county and in the different school systems. So I pretty much know our county.
They say that people that win these races, at least in a normal election, are the person that knocks on the most doors. And is that, are you, you're going to be out going from door to door?
Oh yeah, we always do. I think it's the best thing to do, to get out there and talk to folks, because you don't always see them at meetings and so forth. And so it's important to get out to where the people are. A lot of the time they're not at home, but some of the time that they are, you get to talk to them. And if you don't get to talk to them, your email's on your literature, and so is your phone number. And so they'll give you a call. And I got calls, text messages at home, all different hours, which is fine with me. That's what I'm used to working anyway. When you have your own business, you really don't shut it off at 5 o'clock. So that's normal for me, and if I can help, it doesn't matter when you call. Just don't call at 2 a.m. unless it's emergency. Right. Yep. But people are usually respectful, and people are usually really, really nice at the doors. We have a really nice hometown. So
right, yeah, it's just looking at it, because it's fairly spread out. I mean, you've got a lot of looks like some miles. Right. If you go to Ravenna, you could hit 50 houses in an afternoon. And if you're in Roosevelt Park, you could probably get to 150 houses. So it just depends on. Do you find the politics in each of them in general is about? I mean, Ravenna's got to be different than Roosevelt Park. Yeah, they are different. We've got a lot of farm country out there, and in Ravenna. And like I said, my grandparents, they settled in Sullivan Township, is right by Ravenna, and I grew up in Fruitport too. So. My uncles had farms, we've had horses, that kind of thing. So, Swanson Pickles in Ravenna is important out there. And then in Roosevelt Park, it's totally different. In Norton Shores, with all that they've got, they've got a big population. They've got a lot of businesses as well as residents. So it is quite diverse. I ran in 2006 and an open primary. I think there were 8 Republicans and a Democrat. Democrat obviously won his nomination, but 8 Republicans in the primary. Arlen Meekoff won that race. He worked really, really hard, and I tell him, you earned it. Good for you. And I think he's done a great job. But when I'm looking at this, remembering and reflecting back to what I don't think folks realize what a successful candidate, because it's easy to talk about the populist thing, he's a politician or she's a politician. You can sweep a lot of but the truth is, this is some hard work. It is hard work. It really is. But it's also rewarding when you can make a difference, like the veteran that I talked about. We got a surgery that he needed so he could support his family. You'll have individual cases like that, or to help somebody that's having a problem, is very rewarding. And at the same time, trying to help make sure that we have jobs in Muskegon is the main focus. So if you don't have jobs, you don't have the money to do everything else that you need and want to do for your family, so that they can be here. Right. If there's no foundation economy, all the rest of the stuff doesn't matter where people's ideology is. It isn't going to happen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I've also had the opportunity to work on different issues, and one that's heavy on my mind is human trafficking. You may have heard Attorney General Schuette going after some of the human traffickers. Senator Judy Emmons actually has a 19-bill package. Senator Hansen has one of those bills as well, trying to make a difference in Michigan, where we've got people that are abducting children and forcing them into prostitution. Right. And so I'm on a task force for Senator Emmons as we speak right now. She asked me to be on the advisory committee, and a few weeks ago we went to Detroit and distributed soap, which had a number on there that you could call from a hotel and report that you're in trouble, that you're being forced to do something, and you had a list with people's faces, actual kids that have been abducted, and pass them around to the hotel clerks and so forth, and they've actually found
children that were abducted and forced into this. So it's a huge problem. I think one of the big bills is the one that's named after Teresa Flores, that would not put the statute of limitations on somebody who was forced into prostitution, so you could actually go after the pimp or the guy that got you into this. She was 15 years old. She's my age now. She was 15 years old in Birmingham, which is a very nice neighborhood, and the kid across the street invited her out, put something in her pop, and then had sex with her and took pictures, and the next day said, "You will go with me and I will take you to different men, and you will do this, or I'm going to show this to your parents in the school and everything else." And so she was sucked into that for 2 years.
Wow.
And so now she's into this, providing soap in different hotel rooms for big events like the Super Bowl. They did it in New Jersey. Governor Christie actually got behind it, and they arrested a bunch of people. And we did it at the Detroit Auto Show.
Now, are you saying, Holly, that there's statute of limitations for her to be able to do anything about that particular crime that was perpetrated against her? That's fascinating.
Yes.
I wonder what rationale they used to think that that would be a good thing to put a statute on that.
Exactly, especially for somebody who's abused as a child like that, or just stolen from their family and forced not either to do it in Michigan, or they send them to another state or even another country. That's happening in Michigan every day. They're tracking about 115, but it's probably more than that when somebody comes up missing.
115 a day, are you saying? Or?
A year.
A year, okay.
Yes. We're so close to the border.
Sure.
That this happens. So I think it's really important work to make sure that our kids are safe.
Right.
And if something does happen to them, that if they are able to get out of it, that they can come back later and go after these criminals. And so I applaud Senator Emmons and Senator Hansen for their work on this, and I'm happy to be a part of that committee, and of course Attorney General Schuette, who actually was on To the Point today talking about human trafficking. Okay,
very, very nice. So, tell me something, when you're looking at voting for a bill, and I'm conservative. In fact, I often refer to myself as a Jeffersonian leaning conservative, and I don't know where you're at, and I'm not trying to apply a label to you, but when I look at your district, I wouldn't have a snowball's chance in winning in this district. I'm too conservative. So that being said, though, when you're looking at a bill, do you have to wrestle a little bit, or do you ponder a little bit? Is this something? Is this a vote of your own conscience, or are you trying to represent your constituency's total combined voice? How do you weigh that out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I go with what I think is right.
Okay.
And I think that's what you have to do in that job. I think most of the time it's common sense issues about not overspending. Let's have a balanced budget and do it on time. And we were successful in doing that. Or let's bring jobs to West Michigan, make the climate better so that we can keep our kids here. So some of it's just pretty easy, and some of it's tough decisions. It's not always gray and white.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Medicaid expansion.
Oh, exactly.
I always affectionately call it Medicaid explosion. I stopped myself, but then I couldn't just leave it there.
Yeah.
Where would you? And I say that tongue in cheek, but now I set you up a little bit by accident. But where would you have been on that vote?
Actually, I'm already on the record voting against it coming out of health policy for expanding the marketplace.
So that was not something you were interested in?
No, I worry about the sustainability of it, of Obamacare. I like that they went after pre-existing conditions. I think everybody can agree on that. And some of the things like your 26-year-old, your student is in college, you still want to have insurance for your kids, but it cost our business, and we have HSAs and Priority Health. We've tried it both ways with Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc.
Sure.
And we've always covered our employees. They've had benefits for different things, and it's going to cost us this year, we found out, $35,000 more, and we're in compliance. It's not a fine or anything.
Right.
So it's just really hard to figure out how to do it, and I can understand why somebody would vote for it, just because you've got the federal law. You're
Right.
between a rock and the hard place. I will tell you, in health policy, I sat through hours and hours of committee meetings, but and you don't want people going to the emergency room using that as their doctor, but they would pay for the first 3 years, and then you got a problem afterwards. And so how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around it, Holly. Tell me this before we run out of time here. Where would you have been on a vote for Common Core?
Common Core, I didn't have the benefit of going through all the hearings on it.
Right.
But I believe that Common Core, in talking to the ISD superintendent, Dave Sipka, actually, he spent 2 hours with us on it. You need to have a standard that everybody can read and write and do certain things. And the bottom line is, they're not going to tell you how to get there.
Right.
I think it's still up to the locals to decide what is best for your community. And I believe that strongly because I was a school board member, and I understand that. And also looking at the different schools when I was in the legislature, if you compare Highland Park to Fruitport to Mona Shores or Montague, it's totally different.
Right.
When you've got responsible boards taking care of their schools as compared to a school that was giving way too much money, spending way too much. They were spending, I think it was, they were getting $12,000 in their allowance, and they were spending $16,000 per student, and then wondering why they have budget problems.
Yeah, to me, amazing rationale. But
Yeah.
tell me this, we're almost out of time.
Okay.
How can someone that's interested in your candidacy find out more about you and your candidacy?
Oh, okay. HollyHughes.com.
Okay.
Also, I'm in the phone book, and my cell phone's on my home phone, so you can get a hold of me at any time. I don't fear that. So I appreciate that. But also, I want you all to remember the job fair that's happening May 16th from 10 to 2. And if you're an employer, you've got jobs, give us a call. Either the Veterans Center or myself will make, or the workforce development, and we will make sure that you're part of the job fair. And if you need a job, come on down, 10 to 2, May 16th.
Holly, thanks for being on the show. I hope to have you back on again as we go forward.
Brought to you by Renegade River.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Hi, this is Tommy D with Bad Boys Bail Bonds. Because bad things happen to good people, we'll be there to help you get out. Call the number on the screen, and remember, if we can't get you out, you ain't getting out.
Hey, you want to be a bounty hunter and work on the TV show? Well, call the number on the screen. Gotcha.